first and foremost, going off my family's reaction, because I never detailed to my brother and my father what actually happened.
Your brother Frank actually reached out to me and goes, I had no idea.
Yeah. I mean, they knew what happened, but they didn't know the details, and they didn't know the after effects of it. The sleepless nights, like I said, and I always said I was never suicidal, but there's plenty of nights I went to sleep saying if I don't wake up tomorrow morning, it's probably not a bad thing. They never knew that side of it because you put on that happy-go-lucky face and just keep going about your day, and then when you're by yourself in those closed quarters and, in that dark room and you dig back down into your dark hole, it's a deep hole and it's hard to get out of. And the problem with being in that hole sometimes is, and you notice, sometimes you get comfortable in there.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
Wait, one of the episodes we recently did.
I got chills when you just read that, though.
One of the episodes that I just did, because none of us are as strong as all of us. You'll hear me use that a lot. Yeah. There's a reason for that. When I was in college and played college football, we had a coach. His name was Wade Watkins. In the off season, he catches spinal meningitis. The guy was like 23 years old. He was I think maybe he was 29. He's a young guy. Gets spinal meningitis. So we had to all go get tested, make sure we didn't have it. And he ends up dying 3 days later. Wow. Next season, and I still have the shirt. It's Win Wade's War. And on the back it says, none of us are as strong as all of us. And it always struck me, and it's something, I've been out of college now for, 26 years, 27 years, something like that.
You old fuck.
Yeah. And I will never forget that phrase, and you'll hear me use it frequently. Because there's certain things that stick in your head.
It's so true, though.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, you're not going to take down a whole army by yourself.
Right. Which is the importance of having a partner in any walk of life. Somebody that you can bounce ideas off of. Somebody that you can have your opinions checked and verified or negated.
Well, there's a lot of things that we put our heads together on for this. I mean, you listen. I say it all the time. You run the whole thing. I'm just here because I'm good looking.
Bad choice, people. Bad choice.
But there are certain things. I mean, we throw ideas at each other all the time. Mm-hmm. What do you think it is? And I'll tell you straight up if I don't think it's a good idea.
What do you think the strangest idea we ever had was? Suffering of anal warts?
No,
A little person?
I was going to say a little person, but that turned out fantastic.
That was great.
That was great. Scott is one of the best people that, I mean, again, getting back to favorite episodes, could have been one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
We were talking about getting a stripper.
Actually, we got one coming in.
Yeah, I know.
But it's not the stripper you think.
We kept saying. And again, we were doing this in your basement back then.
Oh, God.
We were like, how could we get a stripper past your wife and past Mandy down into the basement?
Now, with this guy coming in, we could have done it.
Yeah, exactly.
We could have done it because he's interested in nobody in that house. Yeah. Nobody has the right equipment for him. And he's a pretty interesting guy. We're still in the works on that one, so I'm not going to mention his name. But
I mean, there's just so many crazy ideas we came up with.
Yeah. And we get ideas from the audience all the time.
Oh, yeah.
They people say, this person's got a story. This person's got a story. I just heard one today.
And we get requests all the time.
Right.
You should talk to this one. You should talk to that. I mean, look, we had Mike DePalma in. How many people has Mike DePalma given us?
Oh, my gosh.
We had Stewie.
We
have one that's coming out that we're not going to mention.
We have Butchie, Benny.
Butchie and Benny. Benny Love.
Well, in an off way, you got Crudell in here, which I'm still kind of mad at you. Listen, my life is no fuller for knowing him.
Listen, one of my best friends from childhood. You leave Bobby alone.
Bobby, I love you.
And if it wasn't for Bobby, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now, but we'll leave it at that.
What, did he introduce you?
Yeah.
Oh, God, and you're still friends with him.
Yeah.
That's something to hold a grudge on. But there's some strange ideas that get thrown at us, but there's also some guests that say, hey, listen, I stubbed my toe. I'm being facetious, obviously. I stubbed my toe. I think I'd be good for your podcast.
Yeah.
And
you have to weigh some of them out.
Yeah. I mean, we don't really heavily vet our guests, which have bit us before. It's bit us before. at the same time, it's not our story to tell, and it's not our story to verify.
We say it all the time. We're getting their version of their suffering.
Yeah.
It's not our job to vet people and find out the history of the story and find out if it's true. This is your version of what happened to you.
Right.
Nobody else's version. Now, if someone goes against that version, why don't we can get that person in? You tell your side of it.
There's nothing wrong with having opposing views. That's what makes the world go round.
I'm not going to bring up names, but we had someone on the show, and someone contacted you and said that person is an outright liar. It never happened like that, and they're full of shit and all that stuff. Why don't you come up and tell your side of the story?
But here's the thing about that. So in your shooting in particular, the guy that was in the passenger seat who lived but eventually died, he has a different version of events than you.
Well, before he died, he had 16 different versions of the events.
So
he told the state police everything that happened that night. They carjacked a vehicle earlier that day. They were in North Arlington trying to break into cars. Lady comes out. They made a pact. Him and the driver made a pact to do whatever they had to do to get away. Once, and he outright said this. They made a pact they were going to do anything they had to do to get away. Carjacked the vehicle earlier in the day. They were breaking into cars. Lady came out and scared them away. Led the police on a pursuit. I knew there was a stolen gun in the car, so as soon as we crashed, he said, I reclined the seat back. Mm-hmm. He said, and then the cops came up on our side. He said the driver was reaching for the gun, and the cops shot him before he shot them.
But if we had that guy sitting in your chair right now, he would have a different chain of events than you.
Oh, he went to jail that night and had a whole different chain of events.
Correct.
In jail.
So that's the point with this particular guest who somebody reached out to us and said they weren't genuine. Neither of them are wrong. It's perception. It's all perception.
I had a teacher when I was younger in grammar school, and he said, if I take this tennis ball and throw it right into that corner, right, I want everybody to write down what happened with that tennis ball. Mm-hmm. It hit this wall, hit that wall, bounced on the floor 3 times, bounced on the floor. Everybody had a different everybody had something different to say about that. Yeah. Well, it hit the wall on the right first, then it hit the wall on the left, and then it came down, it hit the radiator, and then it hit the floor, bounced 4 times. People were saying it hit the wall on the right, hit the wall on the left, hit this, hit that. Everybody is different. You could watch this same exact event, and you'll have a different perspective on it than I do.
Have you ever gotten guff for having us having a certain guest in? A little bit of flack.
I haven't, but I know we have.
Yeah, we.
How could being ex-cops? How could you have someone like that in there?
Yeah. And I'll say it. It's because I've already talked to him about it. It's mic'd out.
Yeah,
we got a lot of shit for having mic'd out in there, but we would be hypocritical in order to get people's stories out and not hear both sides.
Yeah, Listen, what he did, and he admits he's wrong.
Yeah,
we say it all the time. The first time we met him, he came right up to us. He said, "How you doing? I'm mic'd out. I'm the dirtiest cop in New York City history." He owned up to it. And he had a suffering story.
We've had true blue criminals, and we've sat in front of true blue criminals. And I'm way more mad at, and I'm not mad at them, but I'm way more disappointed, which is worse.
Just like Greyfather, I'm disappointed
in you. I'm way more disappointed in Mike than a criminal, even though they may have done the same thing. Because a criminal, that's the game.
Yeah.
That's the game. You're on that side of the battlefield. I'm on this side of the battlefield. And hey, we retired, so let's meet in the middle. But you were on our side of the battlefield and you turned. Yeah. So that bothered me.
Yeah, it was tough. That's one of the ones, like I said before, was there an episode that you were like, I can't believe we got to do this today?
No, see, with that one, no.
But going up that day, I'm like, do we really want to talk to a dirty cop?
How's this going to play out?
Yeah.
We've talked to, what about Dante Gordon? He went to jail. He was a cop. But his was an unfortunate set of circumstances.
He reached out to me on WhatsApp.
Yeah, he's in Panama right now. He's doing rescue dogs.
Oh yeah, is he really?
Yeah.
He's over there with his mother?
It might be.
Oh, that's
might be. Yeah, his mother does live there.
Yeah.
We always wish Dante all the best.
Hey, I have nothing against Dante. He's
now on
he's one of us.
Getting back to episode 9, what is you're always looking to see why things work so well. Why did ours work so well? After the episode, yes, it was 2 friends sitting down talking. there was something that it was an unspoken thing. Like I said, dead air is the worst thing in the world. So having a partner who can pick up the slack when there's a little bit of dead air, so important. That's what I see.
Yeah, I mean, during episode 9, it really wasn't that because I wasn't a partner. It was just me and you talking. But since then we've come a long way where we could almost read each other. And that I'm the idiot that interjects the jokes at primarily the wrong times.
Boy Scout. Hashtag Boy Scout.
So Clark was going to kill me. But I could feel the tension in the room at times.
Yeah. Was that your most embarrassing moment on the show? So for those of you who don't know, Mike made an inappropriate comment about Boy Scouts.
It was really inappropriate. It was just a joke. The
timing was a little off. The timing was a little off. But
no. It was bad. It was just this week with Amanda. You go, there's a certain place in hell for those people. I go, yeah, Ireland. I felt so bad. I'm like, the Irish people are going to, and I work in an Irish bar.
It wasn't like she was an import. She's got to go back.
That one I felt bad about.
For me, probably one of the most embarrassing moments was Artie Dell.
Oh yeah.
When he gets raped as a young boy and he's on a bus and a guy hits on him and I said, was it the jeans you were wearing or something like that? And then I made the priest comment, which again, I did catch some flack for about the priest comment. But hey, listen, they didn't touch me, so I'm still kind of hurt about that.
Jealous.
I am. I'm a little jealous of it. But you spoke. I know after episode 9, you spoke to a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
you handed it out. What was their reaction?
First and foremost, going off my family's reaction, because I never detailed to my brother and my father what actually happened.
Your brother Frank actually reached out to me. He goes, "I had no idea."
Yeah, I mean, they knew what happened, but they didn't know the details, and they didn't know the after effects of it. The sleepless nights. Like I said, and I always said I was never suicidal, but there's plenty of nights I went to sleep saying if I don't wake up tomorrow morning, it's probably not a bad thing. They never knew that side of it because you put on that happy-go-lucky face and just keep going about your day. And then when you're by yourself in those closed quarters and in that dark room and you dig back down into your dark hole, it's a deep hole and it's hard to get out of. And the problem with being in that hole sometimes is, and you notice, sometimes you get comfortable in there. It's like wallowing in your own misery. You get so comfortable being in that deep, dark place that you don't want to get out of it. Like I said the one time, resisting success.
Yeah.
You don't want things to get better. You're so deep, you don't want things to get better.
That's depression.
Yeah.
That's depression. It's that thinking about the past constantly. Yeah. And once you're in there, man, is it hard. So somebody once described depression to me like wading in a babbling brook with a heavy current and walking against the current, chest high, and the water just keeps rising and rising. Well, meanwhile, you got people on the sides and the banks just saying, "Hey, just step out of the water."
Step out. Yeah.
Like, that's easier said than done. So you get stuck in that fighting against the current constantly. But those people, I know, because getting back to the point, those people, I used to send the podcast out to everybody I knew.
Yeah.
And people had gotten back to me and said, you guys are good together. Like it's you bounce off each other. It was never a dull moment in there. And I got those comments. So it was a big win. It was a big win. So,
because you never know what we're getting into.
Right.
Like I said, after we do an episode, I don't know how it went. I mean, there are times I'll call you on the way home and say, "Kev, I think that went good."
There's a couple episodes where when they were done, I'm like, yeah, there's something there.
Yeah.
There was yours. It was the first one. Artie Dell's, Gene Halberger, and Derek Taylor, Clark Fredericks, Amanda, Pastor Ron Lewis. I walked out Pastor Ron Lewis, and I talked to him outside for a minute. I'm like, yeah, that was a good one.
Well, I mean, even getting back to Dante. What he went through, I mean, that was crazy.
Dante's episode did really well, too. It did really well. And his family members from all over the globe reached out to me.
I know they did.
Yeah, they reached out to me, and it was an interesting thing. Sometimes to the detriment. Now it comes a point where I need a co-host. Like at this point, I know I need a co-host. I could do it alone, and it would be okay, but it wouldn't be
as fun.
It would be hollow.
Yeah, well, I mean, even after I came on as your co-host, after I had the neck surgery and I came down with pneumonia.
I had the
you had the
healing team in, yeah.
Yeah, the 23rd Hour Angels.
Right. That was better because there was
because there was 4 of them.
There was three of them there and me, so it took up a lot of slack. But one-on-one, and I did a couple of those one-on-ones. They're tough.
Yeah, that's the day I went to the hospital with pneumonia.
I mean, again, it was on audio. Yeah. So if, there was a couple that I did one-on-one. I did Jay Aponte, who I bullied the shit out of in school, and I always felt bad for it. It was me and him one-on-one.
See, I think I was a co-host. What episode was that, though? Because I was part of the podcast at that point, but I didn't make it up for that
No,
for some reason.
I think that I want to say that was episode 13. That was a really important one to me. There were some times in there where, especially that episode, it was very pivotal. Like I could have used a co-host in there because it was very uncomfortable for me.
I'm sure it was.
And this was a guy.
I'm sure when that doorbell rang when he showed up, you were very uncomfortable.
I was. I gave him a big hug and everything. But when this kid was 12 years old, I made his life hell. And when he left school and I couldn't find him for so many years, I had a real mental hard time with that. So sitting there across from him, now again, we were on audio, so I had the power of editing, where I took out a lot of dead space there because I was like, oh shit, like what do I say now? Hey, listen, I'm sorry, I kicked you in the ass walking down the hall.
I wish I was there that day. I would have said, Jay, I'm going to hold his hands behind his back. You punch him right in the face as hard as you can.
Well, so
get it all out now.
Jay in particular, and I tell him this to his face. I'm like, you motherfucker, man. You motherfucker. And I'll tell you why you're a motherfucker.
He didn't give you satisfaction.
No, because I wanted him to be mad at me.
Exactly. Because you would have been satisfied that.
Right. And I remember the first conversation we had. He's like, bro, I forgive you, man. We were kids. I was like, son of a, can't you just be mad at me or something?
It's not going to be great content for the show for friends.
Yeah, I know. We're not. But it turns out he's a cop.
Yeah.
He's a cop, and he's been to a couple events of ours, and he's supported us along the way. He's still, I still talk to him.
He came to Hackensack Brewing Company.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
You got to reach out and let him know about Grand Saloon.
Oh, yeah, I want him at Grand Saloon. Yeah. I want him and his family at Grand Saloon because I still haven't met his family yet. He's got 2 beautiful daughters, and he's got a son. His wife, so I've become friends. But the thing that pissed me off about that episode is I wasted 30 years, and that's part of that suffering. Is I wasted 30 plus years, 35 years of somebody who I could have been really good friends with, and it turns out I have a lot in common with. We went out to dinner after the show, and we sat there and we talked about old times and this person and who gave him a hard time and who didn't give him a hard time. And some of my high school friends listened to that, and they knew how I treated him. Yeah. I bet you when they were looking through that or I sent that out to them, they're like, oh, shit. But, that was one of my prouder moments on the show that I was able to overcome that because that was a big roadblock for me.
All right. I was going to say, what's something that you miss about
having my Saturdays free?
The studio in your basement. Yeah, something you miss about having that studio, aside from not having to travel.
Yeah, so the travel time was great. I enjoyed my prep for the show. My prep for the show was almost routine. I would go to the gym in the morning. We record usually around 12 o'clock. I would go to the gym in the morning. I would come home, have a cup of coffee, and then I'd go get breakfast. And sometimes you join me for breakfast.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I missed probably the most about that, aside from Mandy, is me and you used to go out, get breakfast, and sit around the table and bullshit.
You're right, and catch up on the week, and it would be a good idea. Hey, listen, I got this guy, and we just have a little production meeting. But
that was our production meeting, sitting over at a bagel place over breakfast,
and it was wonderful. It was wonderful, and we went downstairs, waited for the guests. Sometimes the guest was, that's one thing different about a studio here versus in my house. The guests are usually on time here, usually.